welcome to another episode of the SD4L show. I'm Justin Thind. I'm here with my co-host Matt Sheehan. Matt, as fired up as always, it looks like on that end.
I'm trying to generate positive energy here because, look, as long as the calendar says March, I am a basket case in this month. No matter how good, no matter how much Michigan State is struggling, these are tense days here that we are living, Justin. But enough about me, my issues. Let's hear about you, man. Are you doing okay over there?
Matt, after 12 months of me trying to give insight to you folks that are Lions fans, about Chauncey Gardner-Johnson Jr.
Yeah.
I have to deal with this man again, once more.
That's
just
a bummer.
pain and more pain, Matt. That's all that I know.
Well, happy Tuesday night to you, Justin.
Yeah.
Welcome to NFL free agency. March Madness is in the air. Shout out to Oakland. You know what? Hey, really quick. I'll put a positive spin on this right off the bat here because I'm fully aware that Michigan State has lost 4 of the last 5 games. Things aren't the prettiest outside when you look out the window. Check out their non-conference, though, man. I mean, Oakland won the Horizon League. Stony Brook, they just were runner-ups. They almost beat Charleston in their game 2. Indiana State, we all know what happened to them. Not too shabby for Michigan State in the non-conference. So, good on you there. Spartans. There we go.
Yeah.
Iron forged.
They can hang banners on that. But no, I think I believe, Matt, that the best place to start would be I think maybe the best. All right, one place that we could potentially start.
Okay, let's figure this out on the fly here. We got this. Yeah.
If we were to look at their potential seeding disparities between like best case scenario, worst case scenario. I think right now, to me, it looks like probably the worst case scenario. I mean, unless they get absolutely ran off the court, based on everything that I've sort of gathered from all the brackets and where they are. And for those that don't know, every couple of days I put out kind of a seed roundup article for free on Spartan Tailgate. And it basically looks at the top 6 or 7 most accurate bracketologists in the country that have updated and posted a bracket in the last day out of 174. Today, pretty much every single bracketologist I looked at had MSU as a 10 seed, except ESPN and CBS had them as a 9. I believe the ESPN bracket from Joe Lunardi, that was from last night. Today, Michigan State is a 10. Yep. And so since publication, that one thing is outdated. So it looks like Michigan State is one of those teams that they're not at the 11 seed line yet. And for a lot of for a lot of bracketologists and for the consensus bracket, they are in that top 1 or 2 seed in the 10 seed line. Now, I have a hard time off of there seeing Michigan State go from being a top 1 or 2 10 seed to being completely out of the tournament if they lose to Minnesota on Thursday. With that said, crazier things have probably happened, and Michigan State is on a crazy slide. But then again, like Michigan State's net ranking is firmly in the 20s. They get the TV rating bump, they get the Tom Izzo bump, the Michigan State brand bump. I would bet a lot of money that there's not really any way that their floor is lower than a play-in game in Dayton. That's where I sit. I think their ceiling is probably going to obviously depend on how far they go in this tournament. But given if they beat Minnesota, they'd have to play Purdue. I don't see them kind of winning that game. So I'd say their ceiling is probably a convincing win over Minnesota to nudge them back into that 9 seed spot where they were prior to the Minnesota loss, prior to the loss last game. And at that point, that's probably not ideal in terms of 1 seed spot. So you're looking at balancing between having more continued bleeding, just more losses here, potentially avoiding a game against the 1 seed in the second round if you lose again to Minnesota here, but then just completely having 0 momentum, or beating Minnesota, potentially getting into that game versus the 1 seed if you win the first round game, and probably still not getting much momentum out of beating Minnesota. So you're really not in a good spot at all here. You, Matt, had the insight of one of the best bracketologists in the world. I believe the number 2 bracketologist in the world over the last 5 years, and Joe Cook-Schugert from 131 Sports. Did everything that I say completely go out the window? Am I completely inaccurate? What did you glean from Joe?
No, he didn't use the G word. He didn't say Michigan State is guaranteed to go in.
Mm-hmm.
Like, if they lose, he said, look, you're probably going to be in, but that's going to be one sweaty selection Sunday. Wildly understandable, too. And from my point of view, just going into my brain right here, and a few other Michigan State fans' brains, too, because I've been hearing about this from them, is that we're just 1 year removed from Rutgers being the team that everyone thought was guaranteed to go in, despite ending the season losing 7 of 10 games, despite winning their opening Big Ten tournament game. They missed the tournament, and that was something that no bracketologists had out there. I think last year there were 229 bracketologists. Only 11 had Rutgers missing the tournament. That was a shock last year. We're seeing Michigan State kind of falter here at the end of things. And I asked Joe, like, is there any direct comparison here to us and Rutgers? And he actually gave us a lot of relief here. He said, I can see where you're coming from, but no, not really. The big thing here is Michigan State, somehow, some way, I'm not going to claim that I know how all this works. In the net ranking, they are 24 right now. The highest net ranking to ever miss the tournament. This wasn't even Rutgers last year. Rutgers was a 40 last year. Was a 33. So no one in the top 30 has ever missed the NCAA tournament. So that's where the confidence comes from. The fine folks like Justin Thind over there and a lot of the bracketologists. A lot of it, of course, has to do with the strength of schedule and then their metrics on the court. But that's where the confidence comes in of, hey, even if they do lose against Minnesota on Thursday, it could very well be a date in Dayton. Now, is that to say that you should just relax in your recliner and just not sweat whatsoever? Like, no, of course not. Like, we're going to be panicking on Selection Sunday. Crazy things happen, just like Rutgers last year. But, yeah, the long and short of it from the top bracketologist or one of the top bracketologists is that a win pretty much seals the deal for Michigan State on Thursday. A loss isn't devastating, but, man, that door is open for them to miss the tournament. So that's where things stand right now. I got an idea, Justin. You ready for this? Just win the game Thursday, guys. Just please win the game. Please win the game Thursday, please.
Yeah. I think the other thing, I kind of touched on it earlier, but like, let's say like Michigan State loses that game and they go from being the top 10 seed right now in bracket matrix to you thinking, okay, if you lose that game, the rightful punishment would be dropping all the way to being the worst 10 seed or like one of the best 11 seeds. I think the worst case scenario would be that unrightfully they will be put into the play-in game because of TV ratings, because of the brand, because of that. So the same dynamic, the same factors that I'm using to be positive about Michigan State's floor is not missing the tournament because of brand, because of Izzo, because of TV ratings. That same double-edged sword could be the reason they're put into a play-in game, even if that slide would be kind of significant, losing to a Minnesota team that, you know, isn't really any worse than like most of their last 4 losses. So I think that's kind of where the way I see it is you can be punished for losing to this Minnesota game. It might not be missing the tournament, but it might be the fact that you're going to have to play a whole extra game in Dayton if that happens.
Yeah, and Michigan State is also fortunate, too, that Gonzaga versus St. Mary's is the WCC championship game tonight. Like, there's no bid stealer in that one. That's the only two. So that's what we got to watch for as we go into this final week. Like, look at Conference USA, FAU. It'd be really nice if they just took care of business because that's a one-bid league unless FAU doesn't win. Then they could have a strong argument as a bubble team, probably stronger than Michigan State. So, hey, if you want to root for other teams other than Michigan State this week, root for the 1 seeds in any of these tournaments. Don't root for any of these Power 6 schools that have some Cinderella come out of nowhere. Like, we don't need Boston College winning the ACC out of nowhere. Like, we just need as little drama as possible because other than that, it's a soft-ish bubble. And what does help, too, a little bit. Now, this is something that Joe Cook Sugar actually pushed back on. But my meatball brain, you know, thinks that there's something to this, is that, hey, one of those teams on the bubble is Indiana State, who won the head-to-head game. That is turning out to be as important, if not even more important than potentially the Illinois game at home or the Baylor game at home when it gets down to it. If it gets down to that doomsday scenario of, oh, my God, hey, he's on the bubble. Let's look around and see who else is here. So, again, Joe Cook, sure, he kind of pushed back on that. He said that that's not entirely what the committee looks at, but it's something that is going to make me sleep a little better tonight. So, yeah.
So speaking of this game against Minnesota, noon on Thursday, Matt.
Yep.
We'll be in the office watching it on my phone.
Speak for yourself. Someone's going to be a little sick over here. Someone's going to have the sniffles or a migraine or just a fake death. I don't know. Who's to say? We might just pull that nuclear button.
Yeah,
let's go for it. Why not?
If there's any time to pull out every excuse in the book, you've been saving it for a noon Thursday round
9 versus 8
2
game.
Minnesota.
That's right.
Yep, that's what it's for. Yep.
That's right.
Yep.
Nailed it.
Rent out your local Imagine and have everyone over and watch some ball. But so yeah, Matt, in this game, Michigan State, they should win this game if they want to have any hope of going far in the tournament. Or honestly, I don't know. Maybe the factor of it is the fact that they just keep playing these Big Ten teams and they've all figured each other out, and it's a slow grind. And
I like that.
They just got to get out of the Big Ten schedule, and this game doesn't mean anything. Maybe, but the way I look at it is Minnesota just lost by like 23 or 27 on a day where Dawson Garcia gave them 30 points. In their previous game to, I believe, Nebraska, right?
Northwestern, they lost 90 to 66. Yeah. So ugly night. And then they lost by 12 to Indiana. Imagine losing to Indiana.
Yeah, couldn't relate. So I think the fact of the matter is that this is a game you should win. If they don't win, I guess I can't put any more stock into this loss saying, oh, they're hopeless, considering the fact that by that logic, I would have had to have said the same after Iowa, Ohio State, and Indiana. So it doesn't really tell me anything new if they lose this game. But again, like, they should be able to win it. I guess that's kind of where I'm at. Is the game doesn't really matter to me in terms of what I think about the team's ceiling or potential, because it'd be disappointing either way.
One thing I like to look at here for this game is that, yes, Minnesota, if we think things are bad here in Michigan State, we lost 4 of the last 5. Minnesota has lost 6 of their last 9 coming into this one. And just like you highlighted, they got absolutely beat over the head with a hammer by Northwestern. Just an outright gutting of a performance by the Wildcats. So they're struggling too. And I also look at last game. I know no one wants to hear it. I'm still actually a little upset about that game myself, believe me. But if you're the kind of person that could point to some wonky things and chalk up a loss to that, well, the last game against Minnesota had no shortage of that. Like, I don't think Michigan State, let me knock on wood here before I go on. I don't think Michigan State is going to shoot 7 of 17 from the free throw stripe again. Okay? I'm not sure. Let me knock on wood again, because I really don't want this to happen again. I don't know if Cam Christie's going to have his best game of his young career against Michigan State yet again. If you just take out one of those two things, Michigan State wins that game on the road. Now, of course, we do have to realize that this game is in Minneapolis. This is going to be in Minnesota's backyard. Do I think that is going to be a sold-out arena? No, but it's definitely going to be Gopher heavy. Let's not get it twisted here. I do think that, yes, Michigan State is the better team, as rough it has been going, more talented. And hey, as far as recent form goes, against all odds, it's kind of a dead heat between these two teams as to who's struggling more. So that's what we have. That's why we have the confidence right now. And if you look at the computers, the point spread is going to be probably similar to this number. Michigan State on BartTorvik.com expected to win by 6 points. And I know you're probably sick of hearing that before Michigan State games as of late, because when they're favored, we know what happens. This is why we're in this situation. But hey, we're due to win one of these, right?
Yeah, and Matt, the good thing is they're not favored by 9.5. They're only favored by 6.
Hey, now that's right. Turn that 9 upside down. Have yourself a good time. Yeah. So that's why I'm feeling good about this. And you want to know how sick and twisted this really gets in March, because again, not only does the chest feel tighter, but the brain is loopier. You beat Minnesota. I will believe that they could beat Purdue. Like that's how quick I could turn from 0 to 100 in March. Hey, you want to talk about wonky things? Fletcher Lawyer, after 8 games of shooting horrendously, turned down the Jets completely. AJ Hoggard really didn't give you much. I imagine that he'll give you a little more against Purdue. There were a lot of other wonky things that happened in that game, and that was on the road. They just lost by 6 points. So yes, you beat Minnesota. Oh yeah, we are inhaling that through both nostrils, and I'm letting that turn into a Michigan State money line bet. That's right.
Matt, you would believe that Michigan State would beat Purdue if they beat Minnesota. I would believe that they would beat Purdue even if they lose to Minnesota. We are not the same.
Wow. That's some spirit over there. That's some confidence.
The thing of it is, though, is like, honestly, at this point, like, it's so, like, playing Big Ten teams, like, again, like the spin zone earlier, like, there is merit to the fact that, like, every single year, sort of, all these teams in the Big Ten, Illinois, Purdue, everything that they do, and I'll probably retweet the Mark Titus clip that I tweeted out at this point last year, but the point is like,
Yep.
And now this year they've gone too far. So like this is not like defending them and kind of being like, oh, everything's fine. Nobody should be mad. They wasted the whole season and the chance of a banner, but like we shouldn't care about that because it's all about March. That's not true. But there is merit to be said about Michigan State and Tom Izzo. They have pretty much approached the regular season and the entire sort of Big Ten season as a precursor to March Madness. You can look at that in terms of how they try to just develop guys all season long instead of just only throwing guys in there for kind of what they can do in the moment.
Yeah,
you
true.
can look at that from experimenting on lineups. You can look at that in a variety of ways. Whereas Purdue, Illinois, these guys, like they'll play their starters like 37 minutes, play nobody on the bench, have no depth by the time it gets to March. They'll play through Zach Edey every single game, every post touch, then get ousted by a team like Fairleigh Dickinson because they literally didn't know any other way to play because they didn't want to experiment. They didn't want to risk losing a game at Minnesota because they had to win that Big Ten title. They didn't develop any other identity. So there's things like that make me say, hey, whatever happens in the Big Ten tournament, it doesn't mean much to me about what Michigan State will do in the tournament. But again, the fact of the matter is that there has been nothing to suggest that they can put the consistency together for a series of games. There's nothing to suggest that their myriad of problems, whether it's AJ Hogarth not playing like a senior guard, whether it's the centers continuing to not give anything on offense, that for 3-4 games in a row, that like one of those issues won't flare up or two of those issues won't flare up. But that, yeah, like I can't get it out of my head, the fact that whatever they've done against the Big Ten doesn't really matter in terms of the tournament starting. Again, weighed against the fact that these issues are still issues. So yeah, I don't know. I have trouble rationalizing those two things. And I don't think it's being a homer to say that you can have success in March without having success in the Big Ten, but you have to have had success in some semblance of consistency to subscribe to that notion to begin with.
Yeah, and like winning breeds winning too. I mean, right. you want that urgency as you go into March. I've got a question because for me, the answer is a very quick and obvious one. The answer is C. Oh, it was just going to be an open. Oh, shoot. I'm sorry.
Sorry. Go ahead.
We'll edit this part out. That's fine.
Okay. Yeah.
Hey, Justin, I got a question for you, man.
Okay, Matt. What is your question?
If you can see one thing on Michigan State, just reasonable. Okay, I'm not asking for Avila from Indiana State to transfer in here right now and play. In the lens of reality, what's one thing that you want to see in this game on Thursday? Because I've got one that's just a glaring need for this team that we've actually seen before. But I want you to speak first if you're ready.
I would like to see AJ Hogarth score a point total that has 2 digits in it.
Okay. Simple as that. Just March AJ. We saw in March AJ look like last year. That was fun. Turn
Tyler
the Jets
Kolek, per my sources at Marquette, he still wakes up in the middle of the night with cold sweats thinking about AJ Hogarth.
He flinches whenever he sees the number 11. It's horrible. And I feel for the kid. My God, he had him in hell last year.
Kid was watching Carson Wentz highlights and just suddenly out of nowhere.
Poor guy. God, that's a shame.
Yep.
JT, I don't want to see this. I need to see this on Thursday. Someone, please help Jaden Akins get out of the shooting slump. So any way possible. I do like, and this might sound ridiculous because obviously it didn't win them the game. I do like that he shot 9 3-point attempts at Indiana. Like, shoot yourself out of that slump, young man. Any way possible. You're not going to get out of this little funk you're in by just popping 2 3-pointers a game. Like, I know that he is struggling. Tom Izzo addressed it today with the media. He's saying that he's trying to build Jaden up, saying that no one has worked harder in the summer at his shot than him. And not just the summer, but also practices throughout the entire season, that he just has to be himself. Maybe this nice little 5-day break will help out here, or 4 days if I could do the math correctly. But he needs to start shooting some 3-pointers. We need a consistent 3-point shooter on this team. It's nice to see Tyson can a few on Sunday. That was nice to see because he's had some struggles behind the arc very recently. But yeah, if I could just see one reasonable thing, it's not more rebounds from the centers. It's not anything with Hogarth. I need to see Akins start to splash home some threes again, man, because when he gets going, completely different team. And I know that's just so easy to say, hey, when one of your players plays really good, it's a different team, but truly to have that consistent 3-point threat. Yeah,
right.
The
best thing about those 9 threes was that 4 of them came like in 24 seconds.
Right.
Like he shot the 3 from the corner, missed it, got the rebound, got it back to him, shot the 3 from the corner, missed it. got the rebound, kicked it out to Tyson on the wing. He made the extra pass to Akins. He hit it on the third attempt of the possession. Next trip down the court, he came and shot a fourth one. Like, that's what I want to see. Just shoot a billion shots. Go Carson Edwards. Go Johnny Davis.
Right.
Just go down shooting. And like it'd be good to get him or AJ Hoggard going. That was pretty much the other answer I was between when you said what I like to see. I guess I would also like to see 5 rebounds for any one singular center, but you said that it had to be kind of something a little more realistic. So I think the other thing to keep in mind is that when they get an average game from Malik Hall, and then let's say 2 of those 3, they can probably beat almost anybody. Now, keep in mind that Indiana game, instead of having like an average scoring output from Malik Hall, what they got was all 3 guards combined for 50 points. The only reason they lost is because Khalil Ware is going to be a first-round pick in the NBA draft. If you can get that Indiana output on offense from those 3, or really any 3, where then the 4th guy, which in that case was Malik Hall, kind of underperforms, and you're not going against a first-round pick at center, you probably win most of the games on your schedule. Nobody wants to hear about that or talk about that because that seems to just be once again explaining away how the game that they lost shouldn't make you feel as bad as the game that they lost. But I mean, that's kind of an objective fact is they got a good output from 3 of their 4 guys, and it would have been enough had the other team's opposing big man not scored in every single post touch that he had. What would you say, Matt, is the absolute worst case scenario in this Big Ten tournament for Michigan State? Because I have an answer, but it's not that's not that they lose in the first round by like 12. It's something else. So, would you like to go or should I go?
Can I guess what you're going to say? Because
yes.
I mean, I've already wrapped my head around this being a worst case scenario. Getting to the title game. Well, okay, injuries there. Okay, that's not it. Getting to the title game and not even winning it because you've burnt up 4 days of legs. And I know that they're young and they could just bounce back quicker than any of us can. But still, 4 games in 4 days is quite the chore. And then you're just nestled in there right on that 9-8 line.
Matt, my worst case scenario is they beat Purdue. They beat Minnesota. They beat whoever they play in the semis. And then they take on Jake Diebler in Ohio State, who beats them to get into the NCAA tournament. And MSU goes down swinging against Houston in the second round of the tournament. All because these guys finally put 3-4 days of good basketball together at the worst possible time. But hey, I mean, if you could tell me that they could win these next 2 games against Purdue, it doesn't matter if you're the 1 seed. Like, you have a chance at that point to hang a banner somehow, some way at the end of the season. Give me a Big Ten tournament banner. Like, I know this is a Michigan line of thinking. This is an absolute poverty program line of thinking of, oh, I mean, hey, you win these 4 games. It's a tournament. Hang the banner. Good season. But, like, we'll take it. I kind of get what those guys in Ann Arbor have been jumping up and down about all these years of these multi-day tournaments being the kind of pinnacle of their season. So
I get it, man. Yeah, I mean, look, am I going to celebrate if they win this weekend? Of course I will. But what I want to see above anything else is just, everyone staying healthy, first and foremost, but also just getting some positive momentum, whether that's just in 1 game, whether that's in 2 games. Because I remember, and look, I'm just going to stroke my own ego here for a hot second, and we're going to go back in the time machine because it's been some time since this happened. 2015 happens. Michigan State, they had just a regular season. They get into the Big Ten tournament, and just the way they played against Wisconsin in that title, I looked at that team and I said, this team is playing great, and they're playing the way you win in March. I put them in my Final Four. Now, contrary to popular belief, as much as a State fan I am, I often don't put them in the Final Four because I want to hedge my happiness. That's for a different discussion. It was like the only time I've ever put Michigan State in my Final Four because I was certain, even as a 7 seed, that they were clicking at the right time. If you could show, okay, you took care of business against Minnesota, you beat Purdue, or even, hey, if it's like the game that they played at Mackey and they just look like a team that can win in March, like, I can't rule out just some March magic because, God, that's all we've been indoctrinated in with Tom Izzo. It's like, excuse me for just blindly believing in the guy after nearly 3 decades of watching him. But yeah, here I am just crawling back to believing if they could just look decent in 2 games. That's again, the sickness you get in March. It's great, isn't it?
Honestly, Matt, my biggest hang-up possible right now in terms of believing in this team is just how close they are to playing against a 1 seed. Like, that is what it comes down to for me for the most part. Like, no matter like if they go ahead and they play really well for like 2, somehow 3 games, they're not beating Houston. They're probably not beating Tennessee and Dalton Connect. I know they came into the Breslin, but they didn't have Zakai Ziegler. I don't believe they had Vescovy that game.
Correct.
They still won after the Breslin. Like, yeah, like I don't know if they get matched up with Purdue in that case in the second round. And
with
I guess
only 6 Big Ten teams, maybe 7 making the tournament, probably not. I think that the committee will do a good.
And I guess in this exercise, we're talking about them potentially already having beaten Purdue in the Big Ten tournament. Like, so I guess that part's a moot point. But I don't know. Maybe they have a chance against Purdue. But like, I don't know. Like, you get them in that 2 line, like Arizona, they don't scare me a ton. Like, I don't know. I think there's such a huge gap that if they just somehow would have done what they needed to do and not be sitting at this point after the Ohio State and Iowa losses, and you just told me like, hey, this team, they don't have to play 1 seed in the second round. Do you believe in them? A good amount? Not at all. A decent amount? I believe in them, Matt. I guess in that scenario, that also wouldn't be 18 and 13. They'd more be like 20 and 11, 21 and 10. So it's easier said than done. But like, I guess in a hypothetical scenario, if they were 18 and 13, everything that we've seen that has happened still happens, but they avoid a 1 seed. I'm still not counting them out. Maybe that's crazy, but like, they can still beat anybody on any given day. They've just continued to choose not to for the longest time. And I'm just going to keep thinking that, hey, and once the tournament starts, they might do it, but they're not beating a Houston kind of a team, not beating a UConn kind of a team.
That's why, like, I keep going back and forth by the minute here because, it's just craziness in my head and a lot of Michigan State's fans' heads right now. But after the Northwestern game, like, on Twitter, I was half joking, half serious. Like, do you just lose the next 2 just to get that 11 seed and go to Dayton? Like, yeah, you might have to sweat a little bit on Selection Sunday, but it's markedly better than starting on the 8-9 line. Like, this sounds crazy because it's 1 extra game, but I would rather start in Dayton than I would on the 8-9 line. Now, is that loser talk? Very well could be. Whatever. I'm probably a loser at this point, but that's okay. I'm comfortable enough in my own skin to admit that. I am scared of the 8-9 line right there. Yeah. Because also, too, like, what 6 seed is scary? Let me just name off the 6 seeds. Say you do win that first game in Dayton, Washington State, Clemson, and then down here you have Wisconsin and Gonzaga. Now, I will say Gonzaga does scare me a little bit. They're actually peaking at the right time, but the other 3 teams I just named, oh my God, please. Like, tell me that Michigan State would probably be favored in those games. Yep. I'm dead serious too. Like, I'm not just, trying to be funny. They would be favored in those games against 3 of those 6 seeds at least that I just named.
Yeah. And if you look at kind of, I don't know, like it doesn't even really, I guess, matter a ton, but like if they even stay as a 7 seed, like you're looking at Nevada, you're looking at Dayton, you're looking at Florida, you're looking at Boise State. Like, these are games that if Michigan State is even has a modicum of kind of pride and like the fabric that the program is built off of, and they get to maintain that 10 seed, they don't fall to an 11, they don't move up to a 9. Like, they most likely win that game. Then you're looking at a second round game against a team like, okay, like North Carolina, like they're very good. Like, they went into Cameron Indoor Stadium, they won that game, but like they have been as shaky as anybody. As everyone in college basketball has been shaky. Marquette,
totally.
Yep. TJ Otzelberger and Iowa State, like big fan of how he's built that program up. But like Michigan State, Iowa State, like 10 seed versus 2 seed, like that's as good of a 10-2 that you could ask for. Like, I know they have some good guys, but like, and then Arizona, Marquette, like that's so much different than playing UConn or Houston in my eyes. I'll be honest, like I haven't seen Arizona or Marquette or Iowa State play more than like 5 times this year. I think North Carolina I've probably seen about 5 or 6 times. But like Michigan State 10 seed, but this roster, like in a vacuum, it's a 1-game series. You're not talking about a 7-game series where I probably wouldn't give them a good shot against any of those teams over a consistent period. You're not going to talk me out of the fact that they can't win that game. Like, it's just not going to happen.
And Tom Izzo's record on the second day of a weekend too, like it's impeccable. Can I break my hand patting ourselves on the back right now because we have encapsulated March Madness so well. Just starting the show by freaking out if they're even going to win this game on Thursday against Minnesota to make the tournament, and now here we are, just a mere 30 minutes later, talking our run to Phoenix right now. This is
yes.
but that's life in March, baby. This is simultaneously the best and the worst time of the year. This is torture, but bliss at the same time. I love it. It's time for hope and time for heartbreak. Oh, this is
so looking around the Big Ten, obviously Purdue has that 1 seed. Then you scroll down, Illinois is still at that 4 line where they have been for pretty much the longest time.
The last 10 years, really.
Yes, absolutely right. Then Wisconsin at that 6 line. No, they were at that 3 and 4 line for like a solid good chunk of the year. And then suddenly they decided,
at the 2 at one point?
Yes. Then they remembered that they're Wisconsin.
Yeah.
And then Nebraska is now up to a 9 seed line.
Okay.
Last week when I did my seeding roundup, Michigan State was the second best 10 seed, and Nebraska was the best 10 seed. So they were literally next to each other, and Nebraska has climbed up to being the second best 9 seed. Michigan State in the exact same spot as they were 7 days ago in terms of their 10th seed line, second spot ranking. That is all for the Big Ten teams in the field. And then you are looking at not really any bubble teams from the Big Ten. I guess you could probably say that Ohio State, if they continue to win at least 2+ games. Yeah, I mean, I was way further down there too. I mean, I guess not really any worse off than Ohio State with their odds, but they don't have the ability to tell the story of we had a coaching change and that turned our season around. So
I think it's just fascinating that those two guys play each other though first round. Ohio State, Iowa, like someone's bubble is going to keep growing after that, and then they get a golden opportunity in the second game against Illinois. Like if whoever of the Buckeyes or Hawkeyes wins that game, that Illinois game could very, very much be win and you're in. But then again, they've only been playing win and you're in games for the last like 3 weeks here. So can they really keep that going? I mean, this would be some magical run for either of these teams. So.
It's crazy that their only loss is to Minnesota out of the last 6 games.
Right? Yeah, no kidding. I mean, So it's no shortage of drama here for the Big Ten tournament, whether it's Michigan State or anywhere else. But is this the most anxiety riddled week or weeks of the calendar year for sports fans? And obviously it depends on like what you favor more, if you're more of an NFL person, but I'm talking like by and large general public, is this the most anxiety riddled like weeks can be between Selection Sunday and hearing your name, or even where you're going to be seated and then the actual games? It's a 1-game elimination tournament. Like what monster created this?
The best way to answer that, like in the form of yes, is if you think to like even years that MSU is like a 2 seed playing a 15 seed, if that game starts, Matt, and somehow, some way, Michigan State's down 3-0 to a 15 seed with 19:51 left in the first half, you think it's over. It's a wrap. You're thinking, oh, it's going to be one of those years, huh? You cannot give up that 3 to a Furman or a Stetson or whatever is going to be a 15 seed. It's
2019. Who'd they play? Did they play Bradley?
I believe it was. Talking about.
Oh my God!
Remember I'm talking about.
I was at work for that one, and we had like clients, and we were supposed to be all buttoned up. And oh my God, I should have been in a straitjacket. There's me and another diehard Michigan State fan in that room. His name's Alex. I doubt he listens. Shout out Alex, though, if you are. We were beside ourselves in that game. And things got comfortable in the second half, and then Bradley went on a 9-0 run in 50 seconds. And I'll never forget that feeling the rest of my life. The heart just sinking to your ankles just like that. And the worst part about that, too, is like I said, we're in a room with a bunch of people, just me and one other diehard Michigan State fan.
Yep.
Everyone else is enjoying the upset. It's like, oh, did you see that? Whoa, look what's going on. Oh, hey. Shh. Shut up before I strangle you in front of HR right now. Because, like, none of that was fun. March Madness stopped being fun for me like many, many years ago. And probably for a lot of Michigan State fans that are watching this right now. Like, it's serious. It's not fun. This isn't some kitschy little thing we do. Oh, my bracket's busted. Like, no, my life is busted when Michigan State loses in March. Like, this isn't some fun, hokey little thing we do. So, God, I both love this time of year, despise this time of year. It's the best.
It's a different breed. I don't think you could be as much of a powerhouse as a program. You could be as little of a program, and every single person, every shot, sitting there on pins and needles to define the trajectory of the season, of the 3-4 year kind of window that your program is in.
Of course.
For some, for a 20-year window, such as like a school like James Madison or somebody who knows when they'll be back at this level again. So
absolutely.
Just what a tournament. What a time.
Oh, God. Right now, right here, right now, who wins the whole thing? Right here, right now.
Like the one in Milwaukee, or in Minnesota, or
the whole shebang, the entire whole shebang. Who does it right now?
That was what I was going to ask you. What are the teams you think have the ability to win it? Who are the teams that are in that category of yes, they can, versus everybody else?
You're gonna hate me, but the two that come to mind are, of course, UConn and Purdue. The two odds-on favorites. I'm not, I'm not going to stray too far away from chalk on that one. But yeah, I could see any one seed doing it. I mean that goes without saying. We just talked about how great the one seeds are. The two seeds, Creighton, Arizona. Yes, I do, just because they play a unique brand of basketball. They got some length on their team. North Carolina, Matt, they do have the experience. So
I have a question.
I hopefully have an answer.
I actually forgot the answer now that I said I have a question, but I know I have an estimation of the answer. When was the last time that Arizona made a Final Four?
Oh boy.
Keep in mind they have been very good.
They have been very good, but here's the other thing too. I despise and slander teams west of the Mississippi River in March Madness. I just never pick any of them to make it to the Final Four. 2003.
That sounds about right. Now, if I remembered the answer correctly, that could be it. But it's 1, 2, or 3. It's before 2004, and it's not 2000. And so, essentially, my point is that is how hard it is. Do you have the answer?
It's 2001. Yeah. Wow. Oh my God, that's so long. It could drink now. That banner can legally drink. That banner's been voting in elections. In elections.
Sean Miller. And then, I guess Tommy Lloyd's only been there for a couple of years. I don't even know who their coach was before Sean Miller. But, I don't know. They've been good my whole time watching college basketball. And here they are, just no Final Fours to show for it. They're basically like Purdue, but the west side of the state and not with the home court advantage.
They're west of the Mississippi River. That's why. Yeah. Now, never mind Kansas for this exercise, and just everyone forget that San Diego State was in the title game last year.
Yeah.
Trying to build an agenda here. Yeah, by and large, frauds. West of the Mississippi River. Frauds. They just don't play basketball properly. I don't know what it is. I don't know if they just play with the rims at the wrong height during the regular season, and then they finally play 10 feet during March Madness, but yeah, they just can't. Or my favorite thing to point at, soft. They're soft. They're soft. That's right.
Yeah.
That's right.
Speaking of teams that are soft, Duke cannot win the national title this year. Going back to our earlier discussion of who can and can't win.
Ever since we played them this year, I was like, that's just not that great of a team. I'm sorry. I know we just lost to them, and I swear I'm not just being bitter right now, but that's just not a good team.
That's one thing I have to own being wrong about is I thought Duke and Kansas would be very, very, very good.
Kansas has been shockingly bad this year. Yeah. I don't even know how they're bad. At least Duke, it's they're lacking this and that. Kansas, they have all the pieces. I just don't know how they're this bad.
Yeah,
it's crazy.
Yeah, it's like you add Hunter Dickinson and everything just falls apart. But
I didn't see how that works. A guy running from the grind makes you a mentally softer team. That's strange. Good for the culture over there.
Yes.
That's good.
I believe, and this could be crazy, especially since I have been slandering this man recently for 2-3 years, and I don't even dislike him, to be honest. It's just he's so overrated. But John Calipari, Kentucky can make a Final Four this year. I don't know if they can win a national title, but put Reed Shepherd on an island. I'm taking that over pretty much any instance of kind of March Madness heroism that you could possibly see this year. Now, him and Dalton Knecht going at it in Knoxville last weekend, it's probably the best basketball I've seen in a long time, Matt. Dalton Knecht, he basically is a more efficient, less of a passing Trae Young to me in terms of the fact that he's not going to be a mid-major darling. Now, he was transferred up from Northern Colorado, but now he's at a program where now Tennessee's had a little more success in March Madness than Oklahoma has, but kind of he plays for that team that has the brand recognition and stuff. but he's like kind of a one-man thing. Like Zakai Ziegler is not going to give you a huge scoring output. Like Vescovy, these guys, like they're around him, but like he's mostly that guy. And he's for playing for a real legit school, but he's still going to take a high volume of shots, and he could go for 30, 35 in any March Madness game. Now, Reed Sheppard, he basically wasn't even shooting in the first half. I think he took like 3 shots all first half. He ended with like 27 points. And almost all the shots he takes are high shot IQ. He's not like a shot chucker, at least in like the handful of games that I've seen. He's not coming down the court at midcourt saying, I'm shooting this 3 steps from now. Like that's not how he plays. When the when the NBA mock drafts were starting to come out in January, he was shooting like some ridiculous clip. Like I want to say like 50% or something. Then they were like, all right, like, yeah, we'll have him at like 9th, 10th, 11th in the mocks, but like his percentage is going to have to come down. No, Matt, his percentage from 3 went up 4% since that moment. And then they're like, all right, well, one trick pony. No, Matt, his assists per game went up about 2 assists per game since then.
Yeah.
He's a facilitator. He's a shooter. He doesn't take bad shots. He gets a quick step on you, and then he's going to get to the lane. All at 6'3", without a wingspan that is any more than his height would normally indicate. Just kid from Lexington, Kentucky. He was a 3-star when Kentucky offered him. I remember the day they offered him because the day they offered him is the day that all these crystal balls started going in for him to go to Kentucky, 3-star. And I'm thinking like, very interesting. I don't know what's going on here. Go on Twitter, type in Reed Sheppard, wondering like, oh, is this a situation where he's like a donor's kid or something? Didn't get an answer to his ties, but all I saw was, man, we're Kentucky basketball. Why are we taking this 3-star kid from the hometown? What are we doing? What are we doing? Never seen anything like this, but this kid's doing at 6'3" with no measurables, just dominant. I can't wait to watch Kentucky in the NCAA tournament. And honestly, if Cal doesn't do it this year, like these guys play hard. No, they don't play defense in every game, but there's like some key games where they've really stepped up the defense. I think 3 games in particular were kind of standing out to me looking at it. Like they're scoring 100 points almost every game. You don't need any defense at that point, but Tennessee, Kentucky, that's going to be the fun teams to watch.
If they could just keep roping teams into, shootouts against them, have the other team think like, oh yeah, sure. Yeah. You can hang with us. No. There's only 5 teams in the country that can hang with Kentucky, and they all play in the NBA. Like it's the Celtics, it's the Timberwolves, it's the Clippers. Probably like it's like no one can hang with the firepower there. They're shooting 41% from 3 right now, and they play at a tempo that's 15th in the nation. Now, if they run into a team like, say, just for example, I don't even know if they'll make the tournament, but Virginia. Mm-hmm. And they just play a team that really sticks to their principles, sticks to slowing the game down to a grinding, uncomfortable pace. That's the only shot I have at like maybe not seeing them in the Final Four because, God, just like you said, they play offense like they were shot out of a cannon. Yeah. And they aren't slowing down. Just when you think they're slowing down, it's like, oh my God, they actually shot 70% from 3 today. Like it's impressive what's going on in Kentucky, which will make it even better when they lose in the round of 32, Justin, to 10 seed Michigan State. That's right. It's gonna be great.
I already have all my Calipari tweets drafted for when that happens. My annual sort of John Calipari is just Brad Underwood with Worldwide West on speed dial. That tweet that I send out every year, but other ones as well. I'll save those for when the time comes. But if they do make it, I probably still will tweet those out when they lose in the Final Four. But the fact of the matter is, this is the year that Cal has to do it because 6 Final Fours, Matt, in his career. Tom Izzo has 8, and Tom Izzo does not run around the recruiting trail like Teflon Don with Nike lining the pockets of all his recruits.
Could you even imagine? No, we go another 30 minutes. No.
You'd have 12. You get a 12 and 2 titles. Calipari.
I was going to say 12 what? National titles or 12 Final Fours? What are you talking about? Yeah. Be more specific with 12.
What a waste. What a waste that Calipari. I mean, at the end of the day, like he's putting guys in the league like crazy. Like shout out Tyrese Maxey and De'Aaron Fox and billion other guys.
Fun, but, I guess, but
you got to do more
banners. I root for banners. Yeah, that's great that they're signing max deals in the NBA, but as a college fan, that really doesn't move the needle for me, quite frankly. Again, I want all Michigan State players to succeed later on in life. Don't get me wrong here. At the end of the day, though, I'm rooting for what's about to happen here the next few weeks in March Madness. I don't think that's too out of line.
Yeah. I think the only accomplishment that Cal's had in like the last 4 or 5 years or so is he's probably won at least a SEC title, and then I think he managed to take the team to Drake's mansion in Canada when they were playing like the Canadian junior team or something, but like Drake wasn't even there, so they just like used his house for a pool party or something, and
that's fine.
That's it. That's the recap of the John Calipari era, the last 4 or 5 years.
There we go.
Yeah,
you've gone some nice tangents today.
Yes, absolutely.
We've really done it.
Yes. Now we could talk about the metrics of yards per target for Devontae Parker and why that $1.2 million vet minimum deal is or is not a good deal.
Oh, Lordy.
I'm just kidding. Nobody would be tuning in.
I'm not qualified to talk about this at all. Hey, MSU hockey this weekend.
This is true.
Ohio State. Ohio State, I know that they were bad during the regular season, but they are peaking at quite the right time. And they got the better part of Michigan State when they started their series against them not too long ago. But, JT, the tickets on the secondary market for this game, like this is the hottest event that this campus will see this academic year. And what a moment for Adam Nightingale and the gang. So that'll be fun on Saturday. The Big Ten tournament semifinals. Just wanted to give that a quick shout out here at the end.
Yes, very, very key, very important shout out. Excited to see what they do here in this upcoming month or so. Is there anything else that we would like to talk about, Matt? Would we like to talk about potential compensation for a luxurious Snead trade? Would we like to talk about what in the world are the Raiders doing with the Christian Wilkins deal?
Are you playing running back for the Cowboys this year?
Yes, or that.
Any one of us.
Pay me enough to play for Jerry Jones. What are the Vikings doing? The Sam Darnold deal. Where is Justin Fields gonna go? Streets are saying the Eagles might be willing to give a 5th round pick for him to be the QB2. I don't know how I feel about that. Because
I would love that. That's nice. For a 5th, that's not bad.
Well, the thing is Tanner McKee, their 6th or 7th round draft pick last year. He's probably the best quarterback in the NFL. And we're not going to be able to see that if Justin Fields is taking the QB2 spot.
When you put it like that, you're right. No, that's a good point.
Yeah, I mean, there's some interesting things here because a lot of teams that were supposed to be they're supposed to take that next step, like the Packers, right? All they have really done is just swapped out one good running back for another who's younger. Cowboys have done nothing. The 49ers were never really going to do much because they kind of had their core. But like the Eagles, the Lions, those are the 2 teams that everyone's kind of looking at because they had cap flexibility and they had kind of just a few needs. And Lions have raised the floor at cornerback.
Totally.
They have relatively raised the floor with Marcus Davenport at edge, but also to the point where they can go ahead and hit those hard in the trade and draft market. And the Eagles have done the same at pretty much every position except linebacker. So it's a good start to free agency. My personal biases aside against CJ Gardner-Johnson.
Yeah, no, of course. Yeah, I think that this means that Lions draft a guard here at the end of the 1st round or trade up to get something. But I also don't hate them like not going totally crazy and spending in free agency. And I know some of the reasoning was like, hey, we're going to keep a stash of money here just in case injuries happen during the season. And I know it's so boring and it's such like an afraid way of going through life, but I love it.
Yeah.
Like you need an emergency fund for the NFL season. Like, you know what sport has a lot of injuries that could decimate a season? Football. So I don't hate the way that they're going through this.
And if you look at the teams that don't operate like that, like it's the teams like the Jaguars where like they sprint to go get Christian Kirk and like these Gabe Davis this year or
that was
the
else.
Raiders. I remember that year when they paid like Nelson Aguilar, Jonathan Hankins, and like 2 other guys like billions of dollars, just because they finally had cap space. And then the Bears last year they sprinted to sign TJ Edwards and a guard for like crazy money, and this year they sprinted to sign DeAndre Swift. The Patriots right after they got out of the Brady contract, where they gave like Nelson Aguilar, who I mentioned for the Raiders earlier, and all these random guys big money contracts. So like those are the teams that are doing it. And I get Patriots during the Brady era were good, but like other than that, like those are not franchises doing it right. So I agree. And I know the Eagles look like they made all these splashes, but they had about 48 million in cap space before free agency started. I still think they have about 22, 21 or so. I think CJ Gardner-Johnson's deal is 10 million guaranteed, but up to 33 with incentives. So very wide ranging there. But so yeah, I think I agree. It's the slow, sustainable way of building it that I think is the right way to do it. And I think there's a lot for us to look forward to, at least with our 2 teams. And at the end of the day, Matt, we are not fans of the Giants, and that is a good thing. And that is all that we can say at this time.
That's why I'm walking out of here smiling.
Yes, that is it.
Yeah.
We are not the New York Football Giants fan base, and for that, we wish everyone a good night and appreciate you listening. Well, actually, I guess it wouldn't be a good night for you guys, but well. That was the first real like foggy brain slip up, despite the fact that 2 minutes before the show started, I was looking for my phone with my phone's flashlight and could have gone much more downhill than this, but
and JT said that he's ready to record. I said, so am I. And I came down to my studio, didn't even bring my laptop. To close the door, I looked in front of me and there was nothing. I was like, good. I'm at peak performance right now.
I can't wait to figure out whether or not we recorded all this or if it was just a practice like run through.
I'll do it over again. I will do it all over again.
Yeah. With that, make sure you go ahead and leave a comment. Matt, what emoji are we doing this time? Let's do. Is there a cactus emoji? A cactus for this final?
There has to be a cactus. There has to be a cactus emoji. There has to be.
Let me look. If there's not a cactus, you could do a sun, but there has to be a cactus.
It has to be for all 3 people that will do this. I will be devastated if it's not a cactus. No,
yes, there's a cactus.
I'm looking at a cactus right now.
Yeah. Then there's also like another. It's like a backdrop scenery type of thing. It's like a cactus with a sun behind it and like some mountain looking thing.
Yeah, I like that.
But we'll do the regular cactus.
Throw us a cactus, for all.
Yes, in the comments, in the tweet reply to this tweet.
3 of you sick enough to do that. Yeah, thank you. Appreciate it.
So also, please go ahead and give us a like, give us a review if you like the show. If you didn't like the show, then don't give us a review. You can just tweet your complaints at Matt Sheehan. And we appreciate you tuning in. And good night.
Love you all.
I did it again. I said good night. Whatever. Good morning.
Whatever
you're listening to it. Please only listen to this at night so that doesn't sound as stupid. All right. See you guys next week.